Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Sam Bragg Draws. In this episode I'm going to be talking about some of my most basic tips for how to draw well, or just to start drawing. I've had a lot of people ask me, well, how did you get so good? What do you do? Basically just how can I do the same thing? Well, my number one thing I say to do is to draw from life. Carry a sketchbook with you and draw what you see around you. Draw people, draw trains, draw cars, draw buildings. You need to draw from life so that you know what things look like. Don't just draw from photos, because you can't always get the same depth, or I don't know exactly how to put it. It's just a totally different thing to see the object in 3D. Your brain processes it totally different. When it's a photo, it sees it more like lines rather than with volume. So if you're drawing from life, you're going to get the volume of the thing you're drawing much more correctly than if you're looking at a photo. Another thing I like to do, this is, a lot of people think this is bad, but emulate other artists. See what someone else is drawing, try and draw like them, and learn from their processes. Now, I don't mean you need to copy their work and say that it's yours. I'm saying here, I like, let's just say Bruce Timm, how he has straights and curves in all of his design work, and his characters are very iconic from the animated Batman series. And so when I was little, I used to try and draw like him all the time. And from that, you start to develop your own sense of style. And that's a really important thing to do, is to look at other artists you admire, try to draw like them, but don't steal their work. You just bring parts of how they do it into your work. Okay, another one of my favorite ways to draw is to do basic blocking out of your shape or character or whatever it is you're going to draw. You need to do it kind of big and kind of messy. Some people call this like a silhouette style, but if you're doing like concept art, there's no better way than to like just make some big, painty, messy shapes so you can get some weird stuff going on. And you get lots of big and small, like you could just basically see how your character is going to look from a very basic standpoint. That's a really terrible looking cat. But like, I know there are a lot of people out there who just draw straight through. They don't do an underdrawing. But to me, it's pretty important to get the proportions correctly. You need to do an underdrawing. Now, if that's not your style, that's fine. But for me, in order to get my proportions right on a drawing, I always do an underdrawing. And I usually make it pretty big and blocky so that I can get the character out there in a very simple, not detailed way, so that I don't noodle it. Because if you start with just doing like the small little details first, you're going to noodle it and you'll draw a really beautiful cat head. Here's a good example. Okay, say I draw my cute little cat head and I've got his nose right and his eyes are over here, and then I realize, oh my gosh, that needs to be pushed up. But if it's all, already drawn, and we've already drawn the cat, you're going to spend forever doing like these little selections to move the cat around and try and get it to look the way that you want. And you don't want to be doing that. You want to have a big basic block shape before you start doing the line art, before you start doing the other sketching. It just helps you to know where you're going. It's kind of like a map. Or even a painting. Like when you're painting, you don't start with just the nose. You don't just paint the nose first and then work your way out. That's not a good way to go. You're going to end up with something looking a little wonky. So you just do a basic shape first in order to create your character. And then once that's done, you can go over it. And you want to be constantly thinking about straights and curves, because straights and curves give your character, or whatever it is you're drawing, interest because of the contrast. So you want to have a lot of contrast in how you're creating what you're drawing. So you want some big shapes, and you want little shapes, and you want medium shapes, so that they're pleasing to the eye and you have a lot of things to look at, and kind of, it just helps if there's variation. You don't want everything to kind of look the same. You want to be able to, oh well, this head is a big shape, and then you've got the medium and the small shapes, you know. It just helps to, and you know, give him tiny little feet so he has that shape different, you know, you want difference. It's pretty important. And then just to make an appealing character, so you know, and you can noodle it more than that. This is just a really quick doodle, but you would have, you know, your straights, and you have your curve, and you have another straight here and another curve here, just to give a nice variation in the shape, form, and the flow of the line. And that's basically all of my favorite tips for drawing, and I'll go into some other tips about lighting and coloring later, but these are just the absolute most basic tips I can give to anybody starting out with drawing, is to start with rough shapes underneath first, so you get your basic proportions, draw from life, try to draw like other artists so that you can develop your own sense of style. So thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe.